They laughed before they saw her. And when they finally looked, they didn't stop laughing until the dog began to cry. It was a Tuesday night when the show The Real Room aired its latest Odd Talent segment, a cringeworthy piece meant to explore the extraordinary, but really just showcased anyone different enough to get clicks and mockery. The host, Jason Kroll, loved it that way. He had built his fame off of smirks and snide remarks, and he was damn good at it. America ate it up. Tonight, he declared to thunderous applause, "We've got something truly unique." He winked at the camera. "Get ready, folks. We're about to see what happens when you combine a preschool talent show with a social experiment gone rogue." Off camera, in the shadows of Stage B, 11-year-old Ayanna Thomas clutched her noise-canceling headphones. Her mother knelt beside her, whispering gently, "You don't have to go out there. We can leave now." Ayanna didn't respond, but her fingers tapped an uneven rhythm against her thighs. 2, 1, 2, pause. 2, 1, 2, pause. "She wants to try," said a quiet man standing behind them. He wore a navy blue service vest, and next to him sat a golden retriever with bright, alert eyes. "She asked to come. She said she needs to show someone something." Her mother hesitated, watching the lights, the booming audience, the too loud world beyond the curtains. Then, with a breath she'd saved for 2 months, she nodded. Back on stage, Jason was still warming up the crowd. Okay, he said, motioning for quiet. "Let's bring out our next guest. A little girl with a very special gift." He finger-quoted that last part, drawing chuckles. "Please welcome Ayanna Thomas." The lights shifted. The audience clapped, some earnestly, most uncertainly. A camera zoomed in on the curtain. She stepped out slowly. Ayanna wore a light denim dress with big plastic buttons and old sneakers with doodles all over them. Her hair was a constellation of tight coils, slightly frizzed at the edges. One hand held her headphones against her ears, the other hung by her side, clenched. Her eyes didn't meet the crowd. They scanned the corners. She took 3 steps forward, then stopped. Jason's eyebrows rose. "Well, there she is. Hi there, Ayanna." No response. "She's a little shy," her mother called from offstage, her voice catching. Jason nodded with exaggerated sympathy. "Oh, that's okay, sweetheart. We all get a little stage fright when we're about to do magic tricks." Ayanna didn't move. Jason turned to the crowd. "Her mom says she can communicate with dogs. Like, feel their emotions or something." A pause. "Not talk to them, just feel." The audience murmured. "She's autistic, right?" he asked the handler. The man in the vest nodded. Jason turned back to the crowd, gesturing with mock gravity. "So basically, she's Professor X, but for poodles." Laughter. Ayanna's fingers twitched. Jason walked toward her, crouching slightly as if addressing a toddler. "So, Ayanna, are you going to show us what your superpowers can do?" Ayanna blinked. Her hand rose slowly and pointed to the dog. The handler gave a short nod and released the golden retriever. It padded over to her, tail wagging. She dropped to her knees. Then everything got quiet. Not studio quiet. Not audience holding its breath quiet. A different kind. Ayanna's hands moved in slow, methodical gestures, circling, pausing, tapping again. Her head tilted, eyes locked on the dog's. 1 tap to the nose. 2 taps to the side. A whisper no mic picked up. The dog stopped wagging. Its ears flattened slightly. It whined just once and slowly, deliberately, lay down. The camera zoomed in. The dog stared up at her with wide, soft eyes. And then it did something no one expected. It cried. A single tear slipped from the golden retriever's left eye. It didn't blink. It didn't move. It just lay there, staring up at this quiet, trembling girl kneeling beside it. Ayanna placed 1 hand gently over the dog's chest. The other tapped twice against her knee. Jason Kroll didn't say a word. For 3 long, endless seconds, the studio sat in stunned silence. Then someone in the front row began to clap. And someone else. And then everyone. Thunderous applause. Jason tried to recover. "Well, that's... He looked to the handler. The man stepped forward. "She's never done that before. That dog's been through war zones, therapy centers, the works. He never lays down unless he feels totally safe." He paused. "He's crying because he feels her pain." The lights didn't change, but the temperature in the room did. Jason cleared his throat. "Wow. Okay. That's a thank you, Ayanna. That was touching." Ayanna didn't answer. She was already turning around, walking back to the curtain, the dog at her heels. The host looked back at the camera. Well, folks, there you have it. Our very own dog whisperer. He tried a smile. It didn't land. The producer signaled to cut to commercial. Offstage, Ayana clung to her mother. Did I do it? She whispered. Her voice was like breaking glass in a quiet church. You did, baby, her mother said, eyes full. You made the whole world see you. Jason didn't go back to mocking guests after that. In the days that followed, the clip went viral not for the spectacle, but for the sincerity. People replayed it over and over. The dog's tear, the girl's steady hands, the silence that said more than any joke could. And in a corner of the internet usually reserved for cruel memes and shallow commentary, a different kind of message began to circulate. Sometimes, what we mock is what we most need to understand. And understanding doesn't always come in applause. Sometimes it comes on four legs, with wet eyes, and a heart cracked open by something as simple as a girl who sees too much and still chooses to reach out. 3 days after the episode aired, Jason Krall locked himself in his Manhattan apartment and didn't take any calls. Not from his agent, not from his producer, not even from his mother, who left 3 voicemails asking, "Why does the internet think you hate disabled children?" The world had turned fast. Clips of Ayana and the dog dominated social media. Millions of views, thousands of stitches, reaction videos with titles like, "I can't believe what this little girl did," and proof that empathy is real. There were even slow-motion edits set to melancholic piano covers. Jason Krall, once the voice of sarcastic late-night America, had become the meme. One tweet read, captioning a zoomed-in screenshot of Jason's smirk right before Ayana knelt beside the dog. That tweet had over 3 million likes. By Friday morning, advertisers started pulling out. By Friday night, his producer told him bluntly, "We're taking a break. You're not trending the way we want." Jason stared at the TV, muted, replaying the segment again. And again, and again. He didn't understand. He had done worse on air. He'd ridiculed politicians, staged fake psychic readings, even aired a segment where he asked New Yorkers if they thought Canada was a myth. But this was different. Because this time, people saw his cruelty against the backdrop of something pure. They saw a girl who didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't retaliate. They saw her offer stillness to a world built on noise. And they saw a man, Jason, who tried to make that stillness into a punchline. The problem was, the punchline didn't land. And now he was the joke. Outside the apartment, picketers started gathering. A new hashtag was born, "Listen to Ayana." It flooded his mentions. Activists, parents of autistic children, mental health advocates, dog lovers, they all had something to say. Jason read the comments obsessively. Some were brutal. He looked into the eyes of a miracle and blinked first. It's not just about what he said. It's what he didn't see. Ayana gave that dog peace. What did Jason give? Ratings. But some stung deeper because they felt true. He didn't see a child. He saw a segment. She walked into a minefield, and he thought it was a comedy skit. Jason shut his laptop. He hadn't meant harm, had he? He thought of the moment she pointed at the dog. The way her hand trembled slightly, yet moved with purpose. The way the animal obeyed instantly, as if it had known her forever. And the tear. God, the tear. He picked up his phone. His thumbs hovered over the screen. "I'm sorry" felt pathetic. He typed, deleted, typed again, then threw the phone across the couch and buried his head in his hands. In a quiet neighborhood in Newark, Ayana sat at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal growing soggy in front of her. She didn't like milk, but her mom always poured some anyway. Across from her, her older brother Jalen scrolled on his phone. "They made you into a GIF," he said, turning the screen to her. It showed Ayana tapping the dog's nose on loop. She didn't react. Jalen frowned. "You okay?" Ayana didn't look up. Her fingers traced invisible patterns on the table. Jalen nudged her bowl. "You're famous, you know. Like, real famous. People are talking about you in France. Mom showed me. Some dude translated your name into Arabic." She blinked once, then said softly, "They laughed first." Jalen put his phone down. "Yeah, but they're not laughing now." She shook her head. "No, they're still laughing. Just differently." Her mother entered the room, holding a stack of envelopes. "Ayana, sweetie, you got more letters." Ayana turned toward her, interest peaked. Letters mattered. Letters were quiet. Letters didn't demand eye contact. Her mother placed a few on the table. One had stickers on the envelope. Another was scribbled in crayon. Ayana opened the one with stickers first. It was from a girl in Michigan. I'm autistic too. I have a dog named Maple. You made me feel not weird for the first time. Ayana smiled. Her mother knelt beside her, brushing a curl from her daughter's cheek. You see? You did something beautiful. Ayana leaned into the touch. He didn't mean to be mean. I think he just didn't see me yet. Her mother exhaled. Maybe not. But maybe now he does. Ayana looked up. Can I write him a letter? Silence. Jalen raised an eyebrow. You want to write to that guy? She nodded. I think he's sad. Her mother hesitated. If you want to, we can. Ayana's fingers were already tapping the table. Her rhythm had changed. The letter arrived at Jason Krall's door in a small, square envelope. No return address. The handwriting was shaky, but precise. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper with blue ink and a drawing at the bottom. Jason opened it cautiously. Dear Jason, I saw you were scared. That's okay. Dogs get scared too. I think maybe you tried to laugh because the feelings were too big. That's okay too. I hope you find a soft place soon. Like dogs do. Sincerely, Ayana. Beneath the words was a sketch crude but expressive of a dog curled beside a small figure. The figure's hair was a scribbled cloud. The dog had tears on its face. And the sun, in the corner, had a smile. Jason read it twice. Then a third time. And then he cried. Not performatively. Not because cameras were rolling. Just quietly, like someone realizing the punchline was never supposed to be funny. The network reached out a week later. We're thinking of a redemption angle, the executive producer said on the call. We bring her back. You apologize. You show growth. Maybe throw in a scholarship fund or something. Public eats that stuff up. Jason said no. Are you sure? The producer asked. This could save the show. Jason shook his head. Maybe the show shouldn't be saved. He hung up. Then he drove to Newark. He didn't call ahead. Didn't bring a camera crew. Just himself, a simple navy sweater, and the letter still folded neatly in his coat pocket. At the doorstep of the Thomas household, he rang the bell. Ayana answered the door. She wore a purple hoodie and mismatched socks. Jason swallowed hard. Hi. She tilted her head slightly. You found your soft place? Jason smiled. I think I'm still looking. Ayana stepped aside. You can come in, but you have to be quiet. He nodded. I can do quiet. Inside, the golden retriever, the same dog from the show, sat calmly on the rug. It blinked at Jason, tail twitching once. Ayana sat beside it. He remembers you. Jason knelt. Do you remember me? The dog moved forward, sniffed his hand. Then it laid its head down again. Jason's eyes welled. Ayana didn't say anything. She just sat, cross-legged, humming something only she and the dog seemed to understand. Jason remained on the floor, feeling smaller than he'd ever felt before, not in shame, but in awe. For the first time in his career, he wasn't in control of the room. And that was okay, because maybe control wasn't the point. Maybe connection was. Ayana broke the silence. Do you want to learn how to listen? Jason nodded. Then don't talk, she said simply. He smiled. And he didn't. Not for a long time. The living room was small, a little cluttered, and smelled faintly of cinnamon and dog fur. Jason sat on the rug, knees pulled in, watching Ayana move in her own rhythm, circling the dog once, pressing a hand softly on its shoulder, then tapping her fingers twice against the floor. She didn't look at him. Not out of avoidance, he understood now, but because she didn't need to. She had already seen him. There was an odd kind of safety in that. Her mother, Dana, entered the room quietly, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She gave Jason a wary look, but didn't speak. I got your letter, he said softly. I know, Ayana replied. You read it 4 times. Jason blinked. How did you? You cried the second time, she added, still not turning to him. You stopped after the third. That means it worked. Jason looked at the dog, which had stretched out beside her, its breathing calm and steady. I'm not used to people seeing me like that, he admitted. You're used to being the loudest voice in the room, Ayana said. Jason gave a wry smile. That obvious? She shrugged. Her mother walked over and sat on the couch, folding her hands. She's been like this since she was 3, she said, her voice gentle but edged with exhaustion. Doctors called it high functioning. I called it hard to understand but impossible to ignore. Jason nodded. You've done something incredible with her. Dana gave a tired smile. I didn't do anything. I just stopped trying to fix her. That sentence hit him like a slap. It was everything his show had failed to do. Stop trying to edit people into punchlines. Ayana stood suddenly and crossed the room to a small bookshelf. She pulled out a folder, its edges worn and decorated with cat stickers, and brought it to Jason. Inside were sketches, dozens of them. Dogs, people, swirls of movement, silent moments captured in pencil and crayon. But more than that, feelings. Grief with sharp corners, joy shaped like balloons, loneliness like a small dot in a giant gray field. She draws what people feel, Dana said, not what they show. What's underneath? Jason turned a page and found himself. Hunched shoulders, a microphone in one hand, a tear just one halfway down the cheek. He almost couldn't look at it. Ayana sat beside him. That's before, she said, pointing. She turned the page. The same figure again, but kneeling, surrounded by color. The tear replaced with light. Jason blinked. And that's after. She nodded. After you listened. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Outside, a car passed slowly, playing loud music. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Life continued. But in that small room, something had paused, stretched open, made room for honesty. I don't want to be on TV anymore, Jason said, surprising even himself. Dana raised an eyebrow. He continued. I mean, I don't want to go back to that kind of TV. The sarcasm, the cruelty, the pretending I'm smarter than everyone else. Ayana tilted her head. You're not pretending. You were smart. You just weren't being kind. Jason let out a breath. You're right. She reached into the folder again and pulled out one more drawing. This one was of the studio. Lights, cameras, the set. And in the middle, Ayana with the dog, and Jason small, in the background, mouth open. But the caption written under the sketch read, Before he heard me. He held the drawing like it was a mirror to his soul. I want to do better, he said. You can, Ayana replied, already looking past him. 2 months passed. Jason disappeared from the spotlight. No guest appearances. No angry tweets. No podcast tell-alls. Just silence. And then, one day, a trailer dropped online. The Quiet Room, a new kind of conversation. It wasn't flashy. No laugh tracks. No monologues. Just a small, intimate set with warm lighting and no studio audience. The first episode opened with Jason sitting alone. He looked thinner, calmer, older, somehow not in years, but in awareness. I used to think the most powerful thing in a room was the microphone, he began. Now I know it's the space between words. The episode featured Ayana. No jokes, no interruptions. Just a long, slow interview where Jason asked, What do you see when you look at people? And Ayana answered with honesty, sketches, and quiet pauses. She didn't perform. She shared, and the world listened. The episode went viral again. But this time, not because it shocked people, because it healed something. Parents wrote in droves. Thank you for showing my child's voice matters. Therapists assigned it as homework. Teachers played it in classrooms. And most of all, Ayana's voice, steady and measured, became a symbol. Not just of autism, not just of being black, but of what happens when you stop talking long enough to feel. Jason visited Ayana's school 3 months later. Not as a celebrity, as a guest. The children were curious. Some knew who he was. Most only knew him as the guy from the Quiet Show. He brought a stack of blank notebooks and laid them on the table. These, he said, are for your stories. Not the ones you think people want to hear. The ones you feel. One boy raised his hand. What if our stories are weird? Jason smiled. Good. That means they're honest. Ayana sat in the front row. She wasn't wearing headphones today. When class ended, she walked up to him. You were louder when you were quieter, she said. Jason laughed gently. That's the best review I've ever gotten. She handed him a new drawing. This one was of a garden. In the center was a man planting seeds. Around him were small sprouts, each one shaped like a heart. What's this? He asked. It's the beginning, she said. Months turned into a year. The Quiet Room won an award for outstanding documentary storytelling. Jason accepted it in a simple suit and thanked Ayana first. He didn't cry on stage. He waited until he got home, where the original drawing, the one of the tear, and the microphone hung above his desk. He wrote Ayana every week. Sometimes she replied. Sometimes she didn't. But every letter ended the same. Thank you for hearing me. And Jason always replied, "I'll keep listening," because he had learned something the hard way and beautifully. That empathy is not something you perform. It's something you choose. Over and over. Even when the cameras stop. Especially then. It was spring again when Ayana was invited to speak at the National Inclusion Summit in Washington, D.C. She didn't want to go at first. The idea of standing in front of thousands of people, lights blazing, cameras pointed, none of that comforted her. But when Jason asked if she would go only to sit and draw, her eyes lit up. He said, "You don't have to say a word. Let them feel you instead." She nodded. The event hall was massive, filled with educators, activists, politicians, and media. But unlike the television studio from a year ago, no one was laughing before she arrived. Jason walked on stage first, not to speak, but to carry out a simple wooden stool and a box of crayons. Then he stepped aside and gestured to the wings. Ayana emerged slowly, wearing a pale yellow hoodie and jeans. In her hands was the sketchpad. She walked straight to the stool, sat, and began to draw. No music, no speech. The room fell into an attentive hush. Behind her on the screen, a camera zoomed in on her page. Slowly, the image appeared, hands reaching out. One black, one white. In between them a dog, resting its head between both arms. Then, a second drawing a crowd of faces, all shaped differently, colored uniquely, but all facing the same direction. Then a third, a child with headphones, holding a microphone toward another child sitting quietly in the corner. That was it. When she looked up, the room rose in a standing ovation. Not because she'd said something powerful, but because she hadn't needed to. Afterward, reporters crowded Jason. "Did you coach her? Who came up with the idea? Was this symbolic?" Jason shook his head. She just drew what was already there. That night, back at the hotel, Ayana and her mother sat curled on the bed, surrounded by letters from attendees. Messages of thanks, of understanding, of changed hearts. Her mother smiled. "You didn't even say anything, and you said everything." Ayana replied, "That's because words are sometimes too small." Dana kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you." Ayana whispered, "I'm proud of you too." Months later, a school in Chicago adopted a new curriculum called Quiet Strength. It was inspired by Ayana's story and focused on helping children express feelings through art, rhythm, silence, and movement, not just speech. Jason volunteered as a part-time advisor. He visited classrooms, not with jokes, but with sketchbooks. One afternoon, a little boy tugged his sleeve. "Is it true you made fun of Ayana on TV?" Jason nodded. "Yes, I did. I wish I hadn't. But she forgave me." The boy's eyes widened. "Why?" Jason smiled. "Because she saw I was learning." The boy tilted his head. "Even grown-ups learn." "Especially grown-ups," Jason said. Ayana's art began touring. A gallery in New York hosted an exhibit called What Silence Feels Like. Attendees walked through quiet rooms where each of her drawings was paired with ambient sound, breathing, heartbeat, distant dogs barking, soft wind. The final room held only one piece, the original drawing of her and the golden retriever on the stage floor. Next to it was a short plaque. "He mocked my quiet. Then he heard it. And then the world did too." Not everyone forgave Jason right away. Some still wrote angry messages, accused him of profiting off redemption, of using Ayana's grace to fix his image. He didn't respond. He knew they were right, at least, about who he used to be. But he also knew that real change doesn't come from convincing people. It comes from being consistent when no one's watching. So he kept going. He started a scholarship fund in Ayana's name. Quietly. No press. Just applications sent to families with neurodiverse children who needed art supplies, private teachers, or service animals. He stepped down from any show business negotiations. When offered a streaming series based on his journey, he declined. "This isn't my story," he told them. "It's hers." 2 years later, Ayana stood in front of her old elementary school, watching construction crews install a new sign. Ayana Thomas Center for Compassionate Learning. She was 16 now, taller, her curls longer, her silence deeper, not from fear, but from knowing it carried power. Jason stood beside her, gray creeping into his beard, hands in pockets. He glanced at the sign. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Want to say something?" Ayana turned, looked at him, and for the first time ever she smiled fully and said, "You talk too much." Jason laughed. Some things never change. She added, but I like you better this way. Later that evening, on a quiet walk through the neighborhood, Ayana held a small leash in one hand. A new golden retriever walked beside her, not the one from the stage. That one had passed peacefully a few months earlier. Ayana had drawn him a goodbye letter and buried it in the backyard beneath the garden. This dog was younger, clumsier, but calm. Have you named him yet? Jason asked. She shook her head. Want help? She looked at the dog, then at Jason. What's the name of a second chance? Jason blinked. They walked a few more steps. Then she said softly, Mercy. He nodded slowly. That's perfect. The dog wagged its tail. Jason's final book, published years later, wasn't a memoir. It wasn't about fame or shame or television. It was a quiet reflection titled, When the Dog Cried. The dedication page reads simply, To Ayana, who taught me that listening is the bravest form of speaking. Inside were essays, letters, reflections from teachers, children, parents. Ayana's drawings were scattered throughout, anchoring each chapter with her unique vision of the world. In one page, Jason wrote, We live in a world obsessed with noise. But every time I'm about to raise my voice, I think of her sitting still, headphones on, changing lives without saying a word. And I wonder what might the world become if we all learned to hear before we speak. On the 10th anniversary of The Quiet Room, a tribute episode aired. Ayana, now a young adult, stood on a soundless set. No applause, just her and the camera. She looked directly into the lens and said, clearly, I was mocked because I was different. I was listened to because I didn't change. She paused. Kindness didn't save me. I saved me. But kindness helped me stay. Then, with a small nod, she pulled a sketchbook into her lap and began to draw. The screen faded to black. A single sentence appeared. Listen better. And the world again fell silent. The end. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.